Plenty of gamers, ourselves included, are often incredibly unlucky. Now, we all hit bad luck streaks in games, but some gamers have hit that bad luck in the public square that is the internet. We've got some hilarious, some infuriating, and some serious examples of some of the most unluckiest gamers of all time. And we're not making fun of them, we feel their pain. So let's get started off with number 10. Speedrunning, if you ask me, is just something where you're begging for bad luck. Basically, any little thing can go wrong and absolutely totally disrupt either your perfect run, your super fast run. There are just too many factors that can just totally screw you over. But for some people, it's sometimes worse than others. Take, for example, Lil Aggie, the streamer on Twitch, who in 2022 was one of the many people just kicking Elden Ring's ass top to bottom, from no-hit runs to speed runs, all that types of stuff. Lil Aggie was one of the people joining in on the fun and really the achievement, and they were going for a no-hit run of Elden Ring, and apparently when they got to the final boss fight, their internet cut out. After that live stream fail, they went to Twitter and said, "I just got to the final boss of Elden Ring with 0 hits taken, and my internet cuts out. WTF. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why we don't stream much here at Gameranx, let alone do any live stream competition, anything like this, because sometimes the internet sucks. You can absolutely never trust it. I know we say that as people who work online, but in some parts of the world and some parts of the United States, the internet is just crappy. And unfortunately, Lil Aggie fell victim to that. They even had the screenshot to prove it, and they took it like a champ because they went back on and tried again. Unfortunately, according to reports, they did take some hits at the end, that final fight, once they got back to it, so maybe it wasn't meant to be. Either way, I think they deserve incredible props for immediately trying again. I feel like with speedrunners and no-hit runners and completionists, it takes a lot to really bring them down. And as much as that was an unlucky streak with the internet cutting out, it happens, and you just have to roll with it, I guess, right? Next, over at number 9, let's talk about a group of unlucky gamers. Do you guys remember this? Back in 2017, when Battlefield 1 launched and people were having fun playing it, Battlefield 1's real-time cheat detection stuff, Fair Fight, seems like it was way too strict, way too crazy at clamping down on cheaters, to the point that it seemed like some players were getting banned for just playing too well. Shout out to Kotaku and many other gaming websites for gathering examples of this. We're going to link all of our sources in the description down below. There are some incredible quotes out there of people who were like, yeah, me and my friends were marked as cheaters thanks to this anti-cheat system. Like, we were playing well, like doing really well, but like our stats didn't actually show that it was like cheater level. But still, it seems like Fair Fight was really just playing better safe than sorry, shoot first, ask questions later, I guess, because a lot of people, there are a lot of examples of some people getting banned. This ultimately was fixed. A lot of these players, especially the ones who were public, apparently did get to speak to DICE and some things were figured out, but just think to the random individual player. Imagine you were absolutely destroying, totally winning in a match in Battlefield 1. It might be the best you've ever played, and you're still a human. You're not an actual perfect cheating robot, but Battlefield 1 didn't think so, and it put the clamps down on you. That would be absolutely devastating, especially for someone like me who is not good at games. And I can only imagine if it was the one time I was doing well and then the game rejected me, I'd be pissed. When the game thinks you're a gamer god and shuts you down, that's just like the most bad luck. But I guess it says something about your skill at least. Next, over at number 8, let's get a little light here, but we're going to talk about this story. We've covered it in some videos before, but it's the Xbox Live player who was suspended for where they live. According to reports that will source, a player by the name of Josh was an avid Xbox Live player playing first-person shooters online and stuff until his Xbox Live account was suspended because in his profile and in his settings, his location listed where he lives is Fort Gay. Yep, Fort Gay is a small town in West Virginia. It's a real place. You can go Google map it if you want, but apparently Xbox Live had pretty strict filters or like red flag systems in place where that immediately set it off and suspended his account. As you know, there are a lot of things in place to prevent foul language and words and symbols and stuff in Xbox Live profiles, names, what have you, and the word gay seemingly came up specifically because it's a word that a lot of people use on Xbox Live to insult each other. I'm sure if you've played Xbox Live since the early days, you've probably heard it. It is not good. It is not right. But also, I guess the filters were a little too strong because Fort Gay is just a real place. And this guy was just trying to have his location setting on his profile. And unfortunately, his account was suspended and the town name was removed from his bio. So he had to go to Xbox, to Microsoft customer service and explained where he lived. Not to mention the fact that it was like his Xbox Live account that he was suspended from using, but he had already prepaid for like a year or so of subscription for it. Apparently, even the mayor of the town of Fort Gay, David Thompson, tried to make a statement and tried to intervene and help, but nothing really happened until the story really caught fire on the internet, and then that's when Xbox Live leadership caught wind of it and resolved it. Now, the director of policy and enforcement for Xbox Live is a guy named Stephen Toulos, and he put out a statement after it was resolved, and it is, someone took the phrase Fort Gay WV, or West Virginia, and believed that the individual who had that was trying to offend or try to use it in a pejorative manner. Unfortunately, one of my people agreed with that. When it was brought to my attention, we did revoke the suspension. Hopefully now, after this went down quite a few years ago, hopefully Xbox takes a closer look at suspensions and policy violations and stuff like that, because sometimes some context is needed. Next, over at number 7, we're going to continue that trend with an unfortunately unlucky gamer whose last name was flagged by Xbox and deemed obscene. A person by the name of Christopher Gooch, or Christopher Gooch, has been using his last name as his name on Xbox, and you can see why that might be a problem. He had apparently been on Xbox Live since 2004, but unfortunately Xbox actually reached out to him. He got a message on his account telling him to change his gamer tag. He said it wasn't the end of the world, but he still felt it was kind of unfair, and he had even used the name on other websites like on PlayStation Online with no problem, and had been using it for Xbox Live for years with no issues. And it was a shame because he said in some statements that as a kid he was picked on for his name. They would call him the Gooch, so now as an adult he kind of got over it, came to terms with it, and wears it as a badge of honor. So that's his nickname online. Now, the last we heard from this story is that he got in touch with Microsoft, the press even got in touch with Microsoft, but unfortunately it seems like their policy was still standing. Xbox said in an official statement to Kotaku, due to the ever-changing nature of internet slang, it can be a challenge separating content intended to violate the rules by being clever from content that does not violate the rules. In this case, the gamertag has been determined to be potentially offensive. We informed the member that he will be required to change his gamertag, which he can do at no cost. Okay, great, so he can at least change his name for free, but by them sticking to their guns with this, it kind of adds some insult to injury. Shout out to the Gooch, we think he's a hero. Next, over at number 6, we've got another wild story centered around one unlucky gamer on the Xbox platform who went through almost like a 3-month ordeal where he was completely banned. Now, this stuff happens to a lot more people than you'd expect, but they don't always make headlines. But specifically with this guy by the name of Josh, apparently woke up to one day have his account be totally hacked. His account was apparently migrated to Russia, seemingly. And when he contacted Microsoft, they figured it out, they worked it out, and said he would be able to get his account back, but it took almost 2 months thanks to just a slow process. And then once he finally got it back, he immediately got a message saying that it was banned. Then he had even more back and forth with Microsoft, resulting in getting it back again and then losing out completely to all access of the account. Someone who has been gaming on the Xbox platform for years, who has spent money on all these digital games, all this DLC, saves, what have you, had no access. Interestingly enough, after all this issue in a Microsoft investigation, they found out that Josh's Xbox 360 that he initially gotten rid of, the one that was affected, of course, by the red ring of death, you guys all remember that with the Xbox 360? Well, someone else got their hands on that Xbox and was apparently using it for nefarious purposes. They were able to eventually figure this all out, get him his account back, reimburse him for some of the stuff, and give him some more Xbox Live, and thank God, because what a nightmare. But can you believe that? From getting rid of your old Xbox 360 because of the red ring of death, never thinking about it again, and then suddenly one day your Xbox account is banned because something happened to that random Xbox? That is extremely unlucky and unfortunate, and like all of ours worst nightmare. I mean, we all get rid of tech and get new stuff all the time, but to result in something like this and end up being a 3-month ordeal, that's crazy. Next, over at number 5, this is a weird one. There's always weird stories to come out of EVE Online, and this one is pretty wild. So in EVE Online, it's such a deep, complex game with tons of people playing and basically living out a double life in it, to the point where there are entire economies and organizations and different groups within it, including a council of in-game politicians. Now, you have to lobby to become elected as one of these politicians in this game, and believe it or not, one of the people to get elected was a real-life lobbyist. A person who works in Washington, D.C. as a lobbyist and a practicing lawyer, happened to be an EVE enthusiast and actually lobbied for the gig within the EVE world by saying, hey, look, I'm a real world politician and lawyer. I have experience in the real world. I can bring it over to the game. I'm not necessarily super famous online or a big Redditor, but I play the game and this is what I have. And believe it or not, he got elected, but EVE Online's developer CCP Games actually permanently banned him, which after such a big political win, that's pretty unlucky if you ask me, accusing him of violating non-disclosure agreements in order to get an edge in the game on the in-game finances and stuff. It's complicated if you're not an EVE player, but it was kind of a messy thing, and there might be more to this story than we know as laymen, but CCP Games did end up conducting an investigation and finding that they were wrong, they apologized, and they reinstated his account. Before this all went down, before his ban was rescinded, I guess it's unlucky for a lot of people involved because this political role in the EVE world actually acts as an intermediary between the players and the actual company and the developers. Still, it's pretty wild. There's always crazy stuff to come out of EVE. We can make a whole video on that in itself, but we have to move on. Next, over at number 4, let's talk Grand Theft Auto 5 and the content creator Dark Viper AU. They play a lot of GTA and do a lot of incredible speedrunning stuff, and in 2017, they were going for the record speedrun time for the Big Score. It's the final big heist mission in Grand Theft Auto 5, and they were gunning to beat a very fast time of 6 minutes 38 seconds, and they were apparently very close to 6 minutes 33 seconds until a big glitch happens that seems to just make this impossible. It's the subtle approach of this heist where you're gonna have to drive your car very carefully onto this trailer, and you have to be precise or else you fail the mission. Right when he was getting to this point, the game kind of just tossed his car up into the air and onto oncoming traffic, and by the time he recovered, he lost too much time. Now, this is actually a bug. There was a random instance where the helicopter actually shot out his tires right before, but the game being tossed up into the air like that and over is a levitation bug that is well known. And according to Dark Viper AU, in a statement to Kotaku, they said, I had not experienced this bug until recently when I was practicing that segment and trying to find an optimal route. Once it occurred in the practice, no matter how many times I reset the truck, it would just be bugged. They even tried a bunch of different things, but it seems like this bug just prevents the players from actually beating that speed running time. And that is unlucky if you ask us. Next, over at number 3, you know we were going to get to one where a player lost all their saves, and this happened in 2023 specifically with Madden NFL 2023 and a really bad glitch. It's a little bit complicated because it involves connected franchise mode, which is a mode where you play online and deal with different online franchises and leagues, but there was a massive bug that resulted in a massive loss with, according to EA, only about 40% of leagues recovered. EA did fix this glitch or bug and then went out and said, hey, it's safe to play this mode, but I think the damage was done at that point because just judging from reactions on websites like PCGamer.com, it just seems like people spent a lot of time in this game, and losing those saves can be pretty damn unfortunate. I wouldn't even say unlucky, I'd go further than that. That just sucks. The fact that EA could only save about 40% of the lost data, like, yikes, man. If I was that dedicated to Madden, I would feel really burned. Next, over at number 2, believe it or not, it's another Soulsborne completionist run ruined by a glitch. This one happened in 2019, and it was with the Twitch streamer The Happy Hob, who was going for the God Run. This is essentially a no-hit run across multiple games, all of From Software's main Souls games and Bloodborne. And if you take a hit, you basically just have to start over. So that's a rough one to begin with. Now, the Happy Hob had actually already completed 4 games. Things were going pretty smooth, only to be beaten in the early moments of Demon's Souls by that kind of like optional tutorial boss, Vanguard. That is hours and hours down the drain thanks to one little whack by a boss that, like, by all means, if you're an experienced Souls player, is not a big deal at all. You know, it's one thing to just lose trying to do a no-hit run, but to lose to such an easy baby boss, that's unlucky. But credit to the Happy Hob, they picked right back up and kept going, and even since 2019 has still been doing some incredible things in these games. Now, over at number 1, one of my favorite stories. Someone in New York suffered a total loss of their entire video game collection. You know those like endless walls of video games that you'd see at like a classic game store, or maybe your favorite YouTuber standing in front of shelves and shelves of games? We're talking that level of games. Apparently, this collection was estimated to be $500,000 in value. Now, according to this collector who posted on social media, who actually works at J&L Game in the city, he had been storing his whole collection at his parents' house, and his mother threw it all out. Like literally tons of expensive, priceless, sealed video games, consoles, you name it. He said, and I quote, he's lost basically every system and game that he was storing. We're talking rare vintage consoles, even video game merch. It's so painful. And it's crazy to think that it was the guy's own mother. I will say, as someone in New York, that's pretty classic. And there's a very specific way in New York guys will yell for their mom. I'm not gonna do the voice here, don't make me do it, but I can only imagine the guy's actual reaction to this. This is absolutely terrible. And it's just your mom. It's not like it's an act of God or a massive flood or something out of your control. Nope, it was just your mom recklessly throwing stuff out that to her probably just seemed like junk, but it was a devastating amount of money. Like it could have been a life-changing amount of money, and all of it is down the drain. A lifelong collection, especially considering older game prices have gone up. It just makes the whole thing feel even more unlucky. If you keep some old video games or anything really at your parents' house, make sure you call your mom, see what she's doing with it. But those are 10 examples of some unlucky players. Some really unfortunate things happen, so we feel their pain. We definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments if you have any stories like this. There's definitely so many more out there. We'd love to do a part 2. Whether you've heard of a big famous story or have your own personal anecdote, let us know. Now, if you enjoyed this video, we talk about video games every day. All you gotta do is click the like button. It helps us out a lot. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.